This is the bonus section podcast number 97. Are you comfortable being uncomfortable? Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside of you, there's this bigger version of yourself just trying to break through? But despite all your self-development, you just can't seem to find the way up there. Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast. And I'm a person just like you trying to learn how to live the most fulfilling life possible. So to help you take immediate action and get moving in a better direction, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com. It's just notes from each of a couple of the last episodes so that we give you something that you can just go somewhere quiet, sit down and think. So many of you are just doing and you're speeding through life and you're not doing any thinking about really, are these my goals? Do I have any clear goals? And do I have any plans to try to achieve them? Am I moving in that right direction? I know you're all busy. You're busy trying to live your life and you've already quit on these dreams. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's plenty of time. Believe me. You just have to spend some time being intentional about getting them. Okay? Are you comfortable being uncomfortable? I know. Sounds like some sort of a riddle, but it really was bugging me this week and I wanted to talk about it. The first point I have for you here today is that living comfortable enough to survive is the equivalent of living on the edge. Think about that. I mean, I can't remember how many times when I'm watching some sort of financial news and I hear most Americans, sorry to all you Canadians and any other international people here, it's all of us. It's any country where, you're not being provided every single thing that you have to do. You have to go out and do something to be fed and to live in a spot. And no matter what kind of dire straits you're in or how evolved it is, first world countries, third world, doesn't matter. Okay. That's not the point. Don't explain this conversation away. We're all to some extent in danger of being very comfortable living on the edge, right? And it's just the weirdest concept when you think of it. I've heard it referred to as the thermostat effect. So think about a thermostat. A lot of people in my family don't get the concept of a thermostat, right? But if I really want to be comfortable and I want to put this at 68 degrees because that makes me feel comfortable. I'm not too hot. I'm not too cold. It's just right, Goldilocks, right? That's what it's like. So that's the Goldilocks effect. Just right, comfortable. But is that really what I want? Let's take that concept and apply it financially. So most of us have to go out and we have to make some money because we have to pay for the house. We have to pay for the food. We have to pay for the things that run the house. We have to pay for the car to get there. We have to pay, right? So we have to go do these things. But what's uncanny is there seems to be this crazy thermostat effect that a lot of people that live in a beautiful place in some of the super high-end houses, and I know this because I'm in the real estate business, right? I see people coming in and buying $3 million houses. They have pretty great jobs, but they're living like right there. And so everything that they do, every extra bonus that they get, it goes to this just to feed this lifestyle because, the tide just seems to keep rising with each other. And then something goes wrong and they've got to bail out of this. And believe me, I see this. Stop looking at people that you perceive to have so much more than you and they're living so much better than you. And I know better because of the business I'm in. They're not. They're super uncomfortable. But it looks like super comfort, living in some of the finest places on Cape Cod, finest places in Boston, and they're right up to the edge. I see it because when I see them go get their financing, I see the size of the mortgage they're putting on. I'm saying, okay, so let's figure this out. They get a Wall Street size bonus. Okay, that probably looks like this. I can Google that in 30 seconds. This math's not going to work if somebody gets laid off, if this economy goes backwards. So they're living on the edge? Whew, mind blown. And so that's why I tell you that because I want to prove to you that it's not about how much money or wealth somebody has. I'm just saying we have this weird way of putting ourselves on the edge of our own abyss. That's what we do. We're always that close to falling over the edge. So, and again, it's the survival mentality. It's so ingrained in us that no matter what level we're surviving at, and surviving is a weird thing. It's not what I like. An animal gets up and needs some sleep and needs to eat. That's what they do. So if you really strip down survival to the animal brain, that's about what it is, right? Got to sleep, got to eat, because it's all about energy. But what happens to us is we don't really just see it as, oh, I want to get into, just sleeping and eating, because many of us could far outpace that basic need. Many of us, especially if you live in a quote unquote first world country that has all of these amazing benefits. I mean, food right down the street, in most places that you look, and farmers, they can make their own. I mean, my gosh, we're out in front of that, and shelter these days. I mean, look at these tiny houses. Really, the truth is you could get in out of the cold, the rain, the heat, whatever, pretty easily. But we don't see it that way because there's other insecure side of us, or maybe it's the thriving side of us that wants more. We want to achieve. There's more, but that's the slippery slope. And this is why that giver versus taker mentality becomes a very important thing, is that we want to thrive and we become obsessed with thriving. But what does that really look like? Because now all of a sudden, while we're thriving, we have to prove it to our friends by joining the country club. We have to prove it to our friends by buying that hot rod. We have to prove it by our friends by buying all the beautiful clothes. On it goes. It's never ending. So it's this weird place that is comfortable as we look. We're not. So, but let's get more into I just wanted to disprove that this is a thing of wealth and income, I guess. Probably went a little bit too far with that. But the point is, let's go back to, in general, what this looks like. Mediocrity. I always was bothered by this, right? Mediocrity loves companies so much that it's the greatest support community in the world. And mediocrity / acceptance and validation. But let's just look at mediocrity. And I mean that juxtaposed against what the best version of you could be. How about that, right? There's always a much greater version of yourself. I say it in the beginning of every bonus section podcast. There's a much greater version of you. It's inside of you. I mean, I've heard it explained as like all this ancestral potential that we have. All of the great things of our ancestry, our gene pool, who we are as humans that have evolved, and this toughness and this creativity and this explosion of potential that we never get to because we get in this way of being comfortable with just surviving. In mediocrity, it's not just a support community; it's a dangerous community. Oh, well, where are you going? Oh, where are you going? Well, why would you do that? Why would you take that risk? Why would you start that business? Well, that's crazy going into that industry. What are you doing? Like, come back here where it's safe, it's comfortable. Is it? I mean, it's not just about survival financially and being physically in a spot where you're surviving. How about mentally knowing that you're nowhere near living at your best? What kind of burden does that feel? Like if you hear all the great motivational speakers talk about it. I mean, Les Brown has a great visual that you're sitting around, you're around your deathbed, and there are all the ideas and things that you never became. Oh, what a painful concept that is. You could have become this thing, but here you are on your deathbed because you got comfortable being uncomfortable. What? That's crazy. What is chokeholding us and keeping us down like that? Well, first of all, start listening to that mediocre group, that voice, and it's a collective. I'm not trying to blame anybody. It's just a strong collective. Survive. We'll get that back and down. Survive. Oh, well, I know we're barely surviving in this group, but you better survive with us, right? But I'll go a little bit deeper into that thought I just stabbed at. Why is it more painful to see yourself growing into who you really want to be than being stuck like that? Let that sink in. I mean, that's crazy. We're so afraid to become something bigger that we'll actually keep the pain of living on the edge instead. What? I mean, just saying it makes me crazy about what haven't I pushed myself to do, even doing this podcast live, right? I'm saying we always see it. Oh my gosh, I would have to learn that new skill. I would have to pick up and move. I would have to quit this job to take that one. And we always see it as so painful that we just stop. We stop just thinking about it based on the burden we perceive it to be. But yet we never juxtapose the perceived pain against the actual pain within which we're living. We pop a pill, we have a drink, we go for a run, we just ignore it, whatever. We pick thousands of ways to numb the pain of accepting something less than that cool thing that we've always thought about doing. And that's why I think that the Les Brown concept of all of these ideas and this potential sitting around you in your deathbed is a sobering moment. It's sobering. It makes you think, holy crap, I don't want to be on that kind of a deathbed. I want to live. I want to live bigger than this. I want to at least try. Let me try. Let me pick a fight. Let me stop numbing my brain with all of these numbing tools that are available to me. And let me try this. Let me feel some fear. Let me feel some anxiety. Let me try to grow, because that's progress towards something bigger and better. And you can define that versus the miserable, tight existence you might be living. I'm not saying everybody's doing that. I mean, there's some people that are generally happy and they're comfortable and they've had a good run. Awesome. That's great. But I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people that know they're not there yet. They got to cross this Rubicon. We got to get out there and we got to pick a fight with this thing that we perceive to be harder than the struggle we're in. And it's not. It's just not. It's more fun and interesting, right? So here's the bonus section podcast today. You're actually working yourself to the bone to survive and be comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay? You're going to your job. You're punching the clock. You're miserable driving the car. You're getting on and off the train. You're right. You're miserable doing all this stuff. And it's hard work. You come home, you're burnt out, you're beaten up. So why not take some of that work ethic that you're using to stay, how do you say that? Comfortably uncomfortable? Why don't you take a little bit of that and try to push in this other direction or a better direction or an additional love, whatever it might be? You see, it's not just leaving one thing for the other so that you go out of this mediocre place for you. It might just be a passion. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday about playing the piano, and he'd been pushed into it at a young age along with his sisters, and it just worked for him. It didn't work for them. And now I asked him today, because he's struggling. He's a young man struggling with cancer. And he's been told there's a limited horizon, which there is for all of us. So I asked him, are you playing? I'm getting the chills about to say this, right? And he said, yes. He said, in fact, I still go and I take a virtual lesson at the Berklee School of Music to this day. And I keep going. I said, don't you ever stop. Don't ever stop. Got a wonderful life as an attorney, and he's been through some real bumps and bruises, obviously, with that and some other things in his life. So don't ever stop playing. Because that's my point, right? You could sit there and you could survive through cancer, struggles, and just be there. And you're comfortable being really ugly, uncomfortable. Well, what about just a transcendence for a couple hours at night to play the piano, and this guy can play the lights out and just escape into this beautiful place of this potential. I've witnessed him play. It's the creative, it's the freedom, it's the breakaway, it's the essence. And that is what will echo no matter when life terminates for him or any of us. That's the thing that will echo. That moment, that thing. Yeah, let that sink in. All right, let me go back and hit this again. It's a heavy topic because it's an important one. Are you comfortable being uncomfortable? The first point here was living comfortable enough to survive at any economic level is the equivalent of living on the edge of the abyss. 2, mediocrity loves company so much that it's the greatest support community in the world. So it will support you to stay uncomfortable. And that's mediocre at any level. 3, ask yourself this question. Why is it more painful to see yourself growing into who you really want to be than staying where you're at? And lastly, the bonus section is you're working yourself to the bone to survive already. In other words, you're just killing yourself to survive and feel that stress. So why wouldn't you break off a little piece of it and push and work that hard at something else, whether it's a passion, it's a side hustle, it's a new gig, whatever, new relation, push. Get out there, get uncomfortable for real, right? Pushing in a new direction. Let me summarize it by saying this. We hear all the time that people around the world are just barely making it through life at whatever level is relevant to their struggle. So the real question is, why would we ever allow ourselves to stay comfortable in such a terribly stressful place or a state of being? We should consider pushing ourselves harder to break free from such an existence because it's better to be uncomfortable, stretching towards your goals than it is to uncomfortably hang on to the edge of the abyss of your survival. All right, remember, you can take immediate action. Whew, sweating after that one. Went after it today, didn't we, folks, right? Remember, you can take immediate action to get moving towards your goals because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com. And we give you instant access to a couple notes here. You'd have to catch the current episodes because I'm not going to sit there and give you too much. Then you'll do nothing. That's not the point. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We also post our content on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the bonus section channel. We also appreciate it if you would join our mission of becoming people for others. That is my life's calling. That is my gear, right? And I want to push you to help me do that. Be a person for others by sharing this content with people that you care about. Somebody that needs to hear this message. You owe me nothing in return. You don't have to ever come back here, but give it to somebody who it will help them think their way to a better situation than maybe the one they're in, okay? But remember this for yourselves. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on yourself and a better plan for your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks.